Yeah. Okay, we are coming up on 7 o'clock. We're going to give it another 2 minutes, as we always do, until 2 minutes after, and then we'll kind of get started. All right, close enough. It's 7:02. So let's go ahead and get started with this edition of the South Carolina Cannabis Conversation with South Carolina NORML. I'm going to start with all of our meetings are an environment of education and awareness and are not an open market for the sale, purchase, or distribution of cannabis. We do not encourage or condone illegal behavior of any kind. All right, close that up, get that out of the way. Oh, there's another window right there in that same application. Let me move it over here. As a couple reminders, and let's get going. First, I'm going to start by welcoming Josh, who's on the call here with me at the moment tonight, and also anybody that may be watching the live stream on our YouTube channel. Also welcome anybody who might be watching this on YouTube at a later date. Thanks for joining in. Tonight is the second Wednesday of the month. Second Wednesday of the month has become the monthly public meeting of South Carolina NORML. Our agenda pretty much stays consistent for those meetings. We're going to talk a little bit about legislative news, what's going on at the federal level, state legislative news, what's going on at the state level, some chapter business, committee reports. I have that always in there, but there's no committees to report, and upcoming events. So stay tuned. There's some info about that hopefully coming up at the end of the call. Just kind of lost myself here for a second. This is our first recorded. Actually, I have the recording paused, I think, but it doesn't matter. They stay out on YouTube. This is our first live stream call in, I want to say, about a month. Our past 3 calls have been non-recorded, non-streamed, open conversations, just trying to keep things light and giving things a little bit of a break, trying to kind of catch my wind again after the primaries, and also trying to get sort of into understanding my position with my new part-time job and how that's going to affect calls and activities and things like that. With that said, we should probably kind of get started a little bit, and I hate to admit it, but it's true. We missed the newsletter last month. I kind of noticed it shortly after it happened, or as it was happening. It was like, we missed our normal date, left it go. And I must admit, I'm often surprised. Let me go to do a refresh here. A lot of folks that receive our newsletter open it, look at it. Not too many unsubscribe. We have this month since 10 o'clock this morning, and that'll be probably the bulk of our opens. 306 opens on a mailing list of about 990. Do I have that exact number handy? Nope. But roughly that number. And so 30.85% open rate. Can't, yeah, I like that. That's a pretty high open rate for newsletters. Could we use a little bit bigger mailing list, more people in the state that want to hear what we say? Yeah, but we're working on that, as we have been. We did get 2 unsubscribers this month. I'm kind of surprised when we get subscribers at all. But then again, I don't know who all subscribes. Some of these are pushed down from national on the Action Network that we're using. So if you happen to sign up for the NORML newsletter and indicate that you live in South Carolina, the algorithms or whatever also then add you to South Carolina NORML's email list. And that could be part of it. We really don't know. Anyway, it's still a pretty low number, 2% this month, and that we don't have that every month. A lot of times there's 0 unsubscribers. Yeah, we talk about bounce rates too. How many people have disabled or an email address, or maybe registered with a wrong email address, something like that. Could have just typed it in wrong, something like that. Anyway, we did get our email back out. We'll talk a little bit about that after we hit through some of the other topics tonight. We will start as normal, or as we normally try to do, is with our national legislative news. Again, it's a repeat pretty much from what we talked about last month. I think I may be looking at some new notes. I know these are new notes on the back. But even those make me kind of laugh. All right. We've talked about the Safe Banking Act before. I'm talking about it now because it's sort of on the top of a list I have here. That language had been dropped from a bigger bill that was moving through the legislature. And yeah, they're saying it's as much Senate leadership to blame as anybody for that happening. But on the other side of it, my understanding is there's going to be, I forget the exact terminology. I want to say it's a mini PAC or something like that. They're taking a whole bunch of different bills and sort of combining them together into a piece of legislation. The Safe Banking Act will be now combined with, I want to say this, the only one I've noted here is the HOPE Act. So it's this like little mini package of bills that I guess they want to try and push through. And they're adding that language to that little pack. Just another method of trying to get the Safe Banking Act finalized here. The other thing that we talked about last time, and again, I'm pretty sure we talked about it the last time. If not, a couple of weeks ago, I did hear that the Senate bill of the what used to be the MORE Act, now the CAOA, the Cannabis Administration and Opportunity Act, they possibly be released like the next day. And then there was some other legislation that took priority and sort of stopped that from happening, put that on pause, I guess is the best way to phrase it. We're at Wednesday, last Thursday, so now a week ago, in another meeting that I had with our national political director, he said it had been delayed, but now watch for it next week. Now we're in the middle of next week. I have not seen anything yet. So I just want to kind of put that out there. That's kind of what's going on at national is, as we know, the MORE Act passed out of the House a while back. It needs every single Democratic vote, plus I believe it was 5 or 6 Republican votes, and it doesn't even have all the Democratic votes to move that legislation forward. As we talked last week, I believe, Nancy Mace, of course, she has the State Reform Act, and as part of her conversation, she brings up and that hers is a House-sponsored bill. Senate-sponsored bills can't generate revenue. We saw what happened here in the state with the Compassionate Care Act, and having that basically, killed for this session on a technicality of there was revenue generation in the taxation portion of that bill. And so reading this article from Marijuana Moment the other week made me question. I always thought that was a since I just recently learned about it, because I never heard about this before, I thought that was just sort of a quirky South Carolina rule. But then in this marijuana policy, or in this Marijuana Moment article interview, Nancy said that alluded to the fact that that's how it works at federal level as well. So when I did have an opportunity to ask Morgan Fox, who is our political director at National, who spends most of his days on Capitol Hill. What's that mean? Nancy in the article says Schumer's bill better not have any tax-related revenue generation because it'll kill it. Mine's the only bill in town. That's, I think, the way I read that. Hers is the only bill in town because she's House sponsored and can have that revenue generation stuff. So I asked him, what's this all about? What's going on? And he said, it's not going to quash anything with Schumer's bill. It's going to be fine. Don't worry about it. So I guess that's pretty much my understanding of what was said. That's not a direct quote. But I had brought up concern, and he did not seem to be concerned about that at all. So that was pretty much the only thing that are moving, cannabis wise. There was the research bill that passed. I have question marks for some reason. I believe that passed both the House and the Senate. But I'll have to follow up on that just to make sure for you. And then, of course, we've got August recess coming up. And our I guess that's kind of what we're kind of waiting on. Even Nancy mentioned the upcoming recess, and of course, what's going to happen with her bill between now and end of session, and how that's going to be affected, how she's going to handle it, how she's going to direct it, if when she wins the election, and holds her seat. So we'll see. I would find it very interesting if South Carolina sponsored marijuana descheduling would be the one to move forward. Go South Carolina. Otherwise, state legislative news. As you guys know, we are done with session. Nothing's going to happen between now and at the earliest December, when there can be early filings of bills. Be quite honest with, oh no, Tom Davis is not up for election this round. So I'm pretty sure, at least as far as the Compassionate Care Act, it's going to come back worded pretty darn close to the way it was as session finished up with it a few weeks back. It wasn't that long ago. But I also want to kind of mention and point out, the big thing right now is the elections. Who's going to be supporting cannabis moving forward? Matter of fact, I don't want to say me personally, but NORML, South Carolina NORML was somewhat being taunted on Twitter, maybe Instagram, Twitter, I think it was, by one candidate who apparently filled out our questionnaire. And I'll have to double check who the person is, but I believe they also submitted some Smoke the Vote voter guide update information for us. And I don't know when. I'm assuming it was very close to election day, or primary election day, excuse me. Because like I said, I started burning out probably about a week before the election. Matter of fact, I had gone on vacation and just got back the day before the election, the primary election. And so there was a number of days there I was away from my computer. I wasn't able to, get in and update stuff. And on the other side of that, on the admin side of the Smoke the Vote stuff, I don't know if there's any way for it to turn on notifications. So I have to think to go and check and see, make sure I click that tab and open it up. And I don't often do that. And I happened to be playing around in it the other day, opened it up, and I'm like, oh man, I missed these. And a few of them are from right before the election or right around the election. I'm not sure if it was before. And now that those primaries are over, administrative access into that database has been suspended again until they reactivate the new race list in roughly 60 days before the election runs. They'll have the candidates in there, and then I can access it again and update whatever info we have on the questionnaires. So I explained this in a tweet, to this candidate saying, hey, don't worry, once Smoke the Vote goes live again in 60 days prior to the election, when we get access to the database, we received your questionnaire, we will update that information for you. And that's going to be right around, what is it, Labor Day, early September. Because election day is November 8th, I believe. And so our focus, at least kind of through the rest of the summer, is going to be a little bit away from what's going on legislatively, and even a little bit about what's going on with elections, except for keeping our ear to the ground and our pulse, thumb on the pulse. Yeah, good phrases. So I'm still going to be taking a little bit of a break as far as that goes, because there isn't a whole lot with state stuff. But I do want to watch as we move forward who some of our legislators are, or some of these candidates are, getting that information updated before the elections in November, and hopefully get some cannabis-friendly candidates in office. As excited as I was to see, the medical bill moving forward is as disappointing of a bill as it is. There was other legislation that I would really love to see it move forward. Again, I don't expect the demographic to change necessarily in our state houses. I think we're going to still maintain Republican control in both the House and the Senate. I don't know what's going to happen with the governorship. I definitely would like to see McMaster out. But yeah, that we won't know until November. But really, I'm hoping as we put together some more information into the Smoke the Vote guide, and we get some of these, hopefully more questionnaires filled out, hopefully by some of the Republicans as well, because I don't get a whole lot of Republicans fill out the candidate guide, especially incumbents. I'd like to find more, because there was some legislation that's been passed or written in the state that I just read a comment here and it sidetracked me. I'll touch base on the comment in a second. That made it not probable cause if you smell cannabis burning in a vehicle, or something like that, that it's not probable cause for a stop. Because now, hemp flower is technically legal to be burned. Again, that legislation was submitted, and sent to committee, never acknowledged by the committee. And that, again, we see that a lot, is no matter who's in control, if the other party decides to submit legislation, it basically goes to committee and dies. It very rarely has a chance of moving forward. Like I said, I would love to see some cannabis-friendly Republican candidates come on board, and then once they get in seat, be able to hopefully talk to them about drafting and submitting and sponsoring legislation beyond medical. Like I say, making it illegal for just the smell of burning cannabis, not making it illegal, but making the smell of burning cannabis is not probable cause for a stop, would be a big plus. I'd like to start to see some sort of legislation put into place, getting rid of, pre-employment cannabis testing. No jail time, statewide decrim would be great. Probably some dreams and things. Guy even give it to Mia McLeod. She sponsored a complete state descheduling bill, which never saw the light of day. But those are the kind of things we would love to see. The problem is, if they're sponsored in a Republican-controlled House and Senate by a Democrat, they're not going to go anywhere. And so we need to find some Republicans that will sponsor this type of legislation for us. Wish us luck. Yeah, descheduling would be a great way to go. Mentioning about McMaster, he should no longer bow to SLED. He's got blue in his blood. He's been law enforcement since early in his career. I don't see him changing his position. And I think, I think had the Compassionate Care Act actually passed this year out of the House and gotten a positive vote and become law here in the state, he would either have had to sign it, or 30 days of him not signing it, if it's just sitting on his desk, it would become law. I'd be hard pressed to see him sign it, even in an election year, even with as much support as I think he would just leave it sit on his desk for the 30 days. Good evening, Shane. How are you? I just saw that note there. Let me get back to where I was here real quick. Joey mentions he thinks Vic Danby lost his primary. Yes, he did. That was one name I was familiar with while watching some of the election results. He's not in my district, and I was very happy to hear that he lost his seat. I couldn't tell you anything about the candidate who did win that. Yeah, that was one, because he was really being a hard ass about it. And with that shaking in his hands and stuff like that, I really think he could benefit from cannabis. Maybe he'll get out of office and try some, maybe just some edibles, maybe some really high CBD, low THC cannabis, something. I hope him all the best, as long as he's not a legislator or influencing legislators.
Isn't it wild that it's all the poor farming communities that are against the medical, like the communities that it would benefit?
Yeah, well, I think when we talk about some of our older, more rural communities, you got to talk about that age demographic in there. And there have been people that have been brainwashed all their lives. That marijuana is the devil's lettuce, or the jazz cabbage, my favorite term for it. But it was going to lead to bad things. It was going to lead you down a bad road. And I don't quite understand. Well, sometimes education travels slow, especially in communities like that. Nobody's really there educating them. As we know, as we've talked about many times on here, it is not really polar politically, because it's really a non-political issue. Almost everybody, whether they're Republicans, Democrats, or Independents, think that marijuana laws need to be reformed. We should we should have it at least for medical, and those numbers are high. I mean, they're 80-90%. Depending on party, they might be a little bit lower on one side than another, but again, they're in both parties. There's significant numbers of people, and again, independence is pretty darn high with their belief that we should have medical cannabis, and many of them think we should. Nobody should go to jail for it. Make it. So many believe in decrim. Nothing good comes from criminalizing, simple possession of cannabis. But yeah, it seems to be some of the more, the smaller communities that could really benefit from it. I'm not quite sure how, but that's one of the things that I have to kind of try and wrap my head around a little bit is how to share some of that info. Let me go back down and check comments here real quick.
Maybe that's where we should start having our local meetings, is these small towns, and invite the town out. feed them, educate them.
Yeah, yeah, I imagine that about Dabney. Yeah, well, like I said, we talk about coming out to small towns. Our hope is we were going to be, I don't want to give too many details right off the bat, but some of you may already know more than I'm letting on. We are starting just in the first couple of steps here, first couple of days of planning an outing, a meeting at a hemp farm in South Carolina, in Colton County. And we are going to have, of course, I can't afford to spend out of my pocket, and our coffers at South Carolina NORML are pretty thin. So we're going to ask this to be a ticketed event, $10 a piece. We're going to give you some, snacks and some beverages. Haven't really defined it yet, but I think to make things easy, I've been thinking about it the past couple of days, probably something like just, deli trays and some pre-made sandwiches and a couple of cookies as a snack, one of those things you get on a business retreat. It's only going to be I'm going to call it a relatively short tour. We're planning, because this is going to be first Saturday of September, planning for heat just in case, so we're going to try and make it a little bit later in the day as some of the heat of the day comes down. Have a little bite, have a little snack, take a tour of the hemp farm, get a little education for folks. Maybe do a little donation gathering while I'm there. So I will be starting to kind of get a little bit more of the details together shortly, and create an event on our Action Network where people can come and register. And my plan generally is to promote around through our social media, try and invite people in from social media. I'm not sure about trying to promote. If I would, it would probably be like Facebook and target that like zip code or something near the farm. I don't know how well Facebook would like that. Facebook has given me so much trouble in the past for trying to advertise with them. I'm not even sure if I am excuse me, if NORML, I as NORML, I've jumped back through any of their hoops because they want all these kind of things. I mean, they send me different things in the mail, code, type this code in, make sure you are who you are and you live where you say you live, and send us your driver's license and to verify that you say who you say you are, so you can have a verified account with Facebook, with Meta. So I generally try and do any advertising with them. I'm not sure if I'm understanding how the phrase works, shadow ban, but I'm almost certain you type in the word like normal or because I already like some of these things, I'm able to, but a lot of times you'll do a search for a group or anything trying to find, there's probably got to be all kinds of marijuana and cannabis related groups. And yet you type that into Facebook and it says nothing found, nothing found. I'm going, something's going on. So there's got to be these groups out there. I know it. They got to be out there. Nothing found. So yeah, they're out there. Matter of fact, there's a couple of them. Let me go find it real quick. because I actually don't follow it, but one of my pages does. And if I try to search it, there it is. Yeah, there's a group out there, South Carolina Cannabis Coalition, got about 1,400 members. Keep some good activity. I think most of those 1,400 folks are probably already NORML followers. But if I try and search for it in the search window, I cannot find it. It won't pop up for me. I know it's there because, again, one of my pages is linked to it. But otherwise, it's, I guess you would call it, shadow banned. You know, they don't want you, they're censored. And so that's the same kind of thing I get with the advertising with them. I mean, I had done it in the past 2 years ago when I was actually a little bit more energetic, probably a little bit better focused. And before the COVID pandemic stuff going on, when I was getting out more, I try and promote, hey, we're going to be at this event, that event. Our meetings, the first couple of years, I mean, 2017, 2018, at least the first 2 years were monthly meetings where I would go out to a bar or restaurant somewhere and try and set up in there, a side table, and hopefully not get too much interruption from that I wouldn't interrupt too much of their clientele or anything, and try and hold a meeting in a busy bar or restaurant. Now, mind you, I enjoyed some of that because I got to travel around the Charleston area, Charleston County area mostly, and get to know a little bit about some of the communities. I got to eat some good food at a couple of places that we stopped, that we would go to, but they weren't always real productive. I would like to get back to having some of them, but I didn't find them real productive because, again, there was time I would go and nobody else would show up. So, and for the amount of work that I would have to put in to haul stuff out and set it up and, wait and nobody shows and then just drag it all home again. I kind of felt that, doing these Zoom kind of meetings and Zoom calls gave people the opportunity to be able to participate from at home on their own couch or at their own desk or from their car or pretty much wherever they are. And I want to say it's been semi-successful as well. We've been doing these Zoom calls since early 2019, I believe, a year before the pandemic hit. It was kind of nice to have during the pandemic as well. But yeah, we want to start getting somewhere out again. We've recently started doing some board meetings where once every couple of months, our board will actually meet for a Saturday breakfast brunch kind of thing, and sit and chat and talk about what's going on in our lives and things like that a little bit. Real quick, let me switch gears here. Because there's not a whole lot to talk about on state legislative news, and we kind of covered all that. Chapter business, I do want to touch on real quick, chapter business, and then, like I said, I'll talk a little bit more about that coming event. We did send out our newsletter today, and one of the things that I felt in recovering from not sending a newsletter last month and stuff like that is I was a lot more focused on election stuff this year, especially in the primary than I have been in past years here with NORML, trying to get these candidates to participate and trying to get that data into our list. And I see that kind of happening for the 60 days prior to running up the election. Is that kind of happening again? That's going to end up being my primary focus during that 60-day period. And that kind of stuff, between that and administrative stuff on the back end here, a lot of my time isn't as available to go out and pound the pavements as I used to. So in the newsletter, I kind of sent out from the director's corner that we're looking for help. I'm going to kind of highlight the different things we asked for. Again, I've talked about these on our calls before, but we are looking hopefully for a first and foremost, a volunteer coordinator, because we do have some people that say, hey, Scott, I'd like to help. And then I go, great. And then I don't know how to coordinate and get things kind of rolling, because I'll turn my head and go, oh, there's a shiny object, or there's a candidate request form came in, or something will distract me, and then I just completely blow it. Volunteer coordinator, somebody that would really come in handy for me. We do have a form out there. We probably have a dozen people that had responded to it. And I think that was like a year ago when I was focused on it at the time. And I don't know if I ever really followed up with any or many of them. Again, I shouldn't be the guy to do that because I'm just not the right person. But I do need a volunteer coordinator that can start doing that kind of stuff. Event coordinator is the second thing here that I'm hoping to kind of put out there. And I past day and a half or whatever, I had to kind of draft this stuff up for the newsletter, and it sort of refreshed in my mind. And we're going to start putting this out there on our website for the next couple of weeks, months, until whatever it is, until we really start kind of fattening that up. That's part of what I'm going to focus on in the next month at least. There's not the election stuff to focus on. But an event coordinator, good example is, and it's nice to see Shane's on the call with us tonight. We are in the early stages of talking about having, well, actually, we picked a date. I don't have my calendar in front of me. September, I want to say 3rd, but it might be the 6th. Saturday, September 6th, first Saturday of the month. And nope, I'm looking at the wrong calendar. There you go. It was the 3rd. Anyway, a tour of Shane's farm there, Bush's Little Green Acres. And our plan is to have basically a normal meeting and a tour of the farm. And it's going to be like a casual meeting. It's not going to be like our phone calls. We're probably not going to have much of an agenda to talk about. It's just going to be more of a social gathering. And like I say, we're going to, just to help us cover costs and things like that, we're kind of figuring about $10 a head to come out and visit the farm, take the tour, have a little nibble to eat and a little bit to drink, non-alcohol, and I'd have to check with Shane, but possibly BYO if you want to bring a little bottle of wine or a beer with you. I don't think that's going to be any harm in that. But mark your calendars, guys, if you would like, for September 3rd. 5:30 in the afternoon is kind of the time we picked, 5:30 to 7:30, about a 2-hour, as the evening starts to cool down, but kind of finishing up just before sunset. And excuse me. And basically, keep an eye on our social media and our website for sign up information on that. I'm hoping to get some of these details worked out with Shane in the next couple of days, maybe by next week-ish. I have a full schedule at work this weekend, but in between there, maybe get, excuse me, free marijuana information. Yes, there will be free marijuana information there. Now, I'm kind of excited about it. Getting out, getting someplace I haven't been in a while, or forever. I've never been to a farm. I've actually wanted to always visit one of the farms. I used to say I've never been to a legal state, but I drove up to Pennsylvania and back the other week, last month. I didn't even find a minute to stop and find a dispensary anywhere. I wouldn't have known what to do because I still, I would have just gone in and gone, look at it all. Yeah, I thought about driving over to Jersey because that was probably about an hour and a half away from where I was. I don't even think an hour and a half. But didn't get around to it. But talking about, hemp and hemp flower, I must admit, I've got to reach out in the next couple of, I talked to them back in April briefly, the folks that own the Charleston Hemp Collective. They got themselves like a bread truck kind of thing, and they set it up instead of a food truck. It's like a hemp truck. I know they have, or at least when I saw it the one day, it had like balms and salves and lotions and all kinds of cannabis related stuff. I don't think the truck actually had hemp flower in it, but I'm not certain of that. They have been vending over at the reggae festivals on James Island here in Charleston, where I'm at. Unfortunately, I'm stuck in the middle of an intersection, like 200 yards away from them. So I haven't been able to go and check it out and say hello. I'm probably gonna have to get somebody to cover my position there this Friday for at least 20 minutes or 15 minutes or something like that. But yeah, I'm over there like kind of directing traffic as people are pulling in to go to this reggae fest. And but I'm standing out in the middle of an intersection, and I don't know if it's coming from the truck, or I don't know if it's the people that are coming in the road, but every now and again, I get a real nice smell of some burning cannabis. And it's like, yes, nice. But I do want to start to talk to them because I know when I briefly spoke with their owner, and I can't even remember his name now. Back in April, he mentioned wanting to collaborate and start getting some stuff done together. And because I'm here in Charleston and they're here in Charleston, I think it's probably a good place to kind of start. And one of the things we're going to be doing with that is trying to help us develop our little sticker program where we have QR codes on the stickers, and people can, as you can see, maybe on this one, it says donate, and people can hit it with their QR code reader on their phone, and it goes right to our donate section, our donate page, and have different ones like that, information, and have it go here, or volunteer, just different things to kind of take them to different spots and hopefully inspire them to check out our website a little bit more and support our cause. You wouldn't happen to have a last name there, would you, Josh? Because I'm pretty sure that's what his first name was. Matt, yeah.
I believe Skinner or Skinnerd or something like that.
I'm going to make myself a real quick note here. Yeah, Yeah, like I said, we spoke briefly. Actually, I remember exactly when it was April 16th at the Bohemian Bowl. But yeah, a lot of stuff was kind of hopping at the time, and it was like, yeah, we'll get back to it, and never did. So I wrote those names down. I will track them down. Um, I'll call back over there and see if I can get in touch with them. Last I think I tried was back in April on 20th. Um, after we were leaving our event at the Knot, I was going to try and stop at their event, but never did get through to them. So anyhow, let me check the time. 7:50 already. I have kind of rambled on a little bit. Um, I did not finish going over everything in what we're looking for as far as volunteer stuff, chapter business stuff, but you guys get the picture. Um, and I think y'all probably get our newsletter. So if you really want to delve into it, it's out there. Um, one thing on there that is kind of important is I did put out, we're looking for some board member candidates because it looks like we're going to probably be losing Kristen early in the year. She's going to be moving away, and I believe she said she's moving to Portugal. So that sounds very exciting. But I need somebody to help fill that spot. So anyway, guys, anybody got any comments or questions that you'd like to hit me with before we kind of wrap up tonight? Any suggestions, or I probably just said suggestions. Any thoughts about the get together at the farm? What you might like?
I got some thoughts, but I'll run it by Shane privately before I throw stuff out there and get him committed to doing things you don't want to do.
Yeah, we want to try and keep it, like I said, but it's a 2-hour meeting, so we want to try and keep it simple. And we want to try and keep it economical, I guess is the best way to phrase it. And yet we're hoping to maybe make a little bit of donations for our pockets as well. So we'll see how it flies, and get back to me, Shane, if you like some of Josh's ideas. I'd like to kind of craft the rest of this out and I can create the Action Network thing with minimal info, and like to be announced later kind of lines, and then just go back and update it every now and again or as we need to. So I will probably have that done probably by end of day tomorrow. Just have to make sure I get it on my calendar for tomorrow.
And I got access to like popcorn machines, snow cone machines, snow cone machines, cotton candy machines, all the stuff like that. So if we want to throw some of that in the mix, I'd be willing to donate, the materials to do it with.
I just
I
lost
don't
my.
know how many kids are gonna be there that are gonna want snow cones.
No, well, that was what I was thinking. The only thing I could think is if it was a hot day, a snow cone would be kind of good. Yeah, I don't want to try and focus too much on. Oh, maybe there's the button. There you go.
Or just stuff in the future, like if we're out somewhere, we sell bags of popcorn and, raise funds.
There was a guy that was volunteering. Actually, you may have heard me tell the story about the one fellow that did his community service with us. And he had a snow cone machine, and he brought it with us brought it along a couple times, and set it up on our booth. And we didn't sell any money. We were just kind of giving them to kids. But it was still a draw, something for the kids to do while their parents were talking to us. Yeah, it was a good draw, especially on a hot day. But yeah, I'll keep that in mind that you have access to some of that kind of stuff in case we need it for other stuff. Or like I say, if you see something that might be a good fit for like a small event like we're doing with, I don't want to say small because I don't know how many people will come out, but
Hell, I even have a dunking booth.
Well, you and Shane talk a little bit, and then you guys get back to me in the next couple days. And we'll sort of see if we can round some of the details of this out. How's that sound?
Hey, fellas, I instead of more like a kid thing, uh, snow cone, I would look at it more like activists and politicians forming a plan going into what we're gonna do next year. You know, I mean, educate, do the normal meeting and stuff like that. But I'm inviting Greg Ford. I'm gonna reach out to some other political figures, any other activist groups we can get together. Because one activist group ain't gonna do it. We got the numbers, but everybody's afraid to work with each other. So we got to bring each other together. Somebody's got to do it, but we got to. I don't know. I think it should be more with a purpose. So what we're going to do next year.
Yeah, I didn't really figure we would have too much in the way of kids coming. I mean, that wasn't the way I was picturing it either. I was kind of figuring a bunch of us like activists. I hadn't even really thought about politicians. But yeah, people who want to kind of like I say, they're interested in the subject. They want to come out and they want to see a farm. And they want to talk about, how do we make this stuff legalized here in South Carolina? So that's why I was thinking, some deli trays and a couple chocolate chip cookies as dessert or whatever. Keep it simple. Because we talked the other day about barbecuing, or when I said pizza, it was because it was easy. You just order them and carry them in. And you mentioned that you don't have a good pizza place. You're a pizza place in the community there. And you mentioned grilling, but the grilling to me sounds like too much work. So I'm thinking deli trays I can bring cold from here in Charleston, drive them along with me. How would that sound to you? Something like that?
I'm probably going to grill anyway, but I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to invite Tom Davis. I invited Jill, but she can't make it. I think we really need to pull together, man. We got NORML. I support NORML because of the decrim and things like that. And I believe people should have freedom of choice. But I also know that it's a process. And we're not going to get what we want. So these other groups that are fighting for the beginning steps, we're not going to get what we want until they get what they want. And what I mean by that is medical cannabis. I think we should be pushing hard. And that's what I'm going to do.
Well, yeah, like again, we'll plan for an older crowd, not try a kid thing, more activist and hopefully politically, focused. A tour to be part of it. I'll probably get up and talk a little bit about what NORML is doing and do sort of a mini meeting kind of thing. But like I said, being 2 hours, we'll have a limited amount of time, and we want to leave time for folks to be able to, especially if you're going to be inviting people like different politicians out, we're going to want some time to spend to chat with them as well. And not be tied up trying to present a meeting or on the tour. We want to actually be able to sit and talk with them and get their input as well. But now we're talking hot dog steamers. I just had dinner and you're making me hungry talking about food.
That would be me, the politician. Because I got things I want to do, but I don't want to jeopardize the work that Senator Tom Davis has already put in. So I want to make sure what I'm doing is helpful to that cause, because it's going to be helpful to NORML cause next.
Well, as you know, normal overall has a broader view. But you're right. Yeah, we've got one Republican legislator who's pushing for medical. We've got to support him every way we can because it's the only game. It's the only game in town. Um, I mean, we did get Herb Kurzman to do or should I say, he got Herb Kurzman to do the companion bill in the House, but we see where that got. It got nowhere. Had Herb Kurzman's bill moved forward, which was basically identically worded to Davis's, except it included dispensary selling flower and smokable, being able to smoke it. I would have really rather seen Herb Kurzman's medical bill move forward. And then the tax generation wouldn't have even been a question. They were identical bills. The reason that Davis's went forward is because Davis is a senior legislator. He's been at this for a lot of years. He's finally gotten some support from other legislators on his bill. But I'm really surprised that he got blindsided by this, revenue generation thing. So, we could probably invite Joe up to the farm. That would be an interesting. I know his what do you call it? Political advisor, political director, manager, his campaign manager. So that would be interesting. Oh, when it comes down to now, I see two different comments here, one next to it. Anyone know Joe? And then it's Joey saying, let's get Cunningham in office. I have to try to be very on the fence in my position here with NORML. I don't want to sound political in one way or another. Personally, I don't feel I'm a Republican or a Democrat. I'm probably more of a, in between liberal something or independent. But yeah, I think that would be kind of interesting. From what I know of Joe, I mean, very similar to when we had him come to our press conference in February. He may try and make it into a bit of a campaign stop. So that's to be expected, but just to kind of put that out there. Let's see what Josh has here. Well, what I think, I'm going to address what Josh mentioned here. I kind of agree with Shane that most advocates will tell you that medical is going to come first. I'm not so sure. As a matter of fact, after this last round, I'm even more convinced that we need to really figure out how to ramp up moving local decrim ordinances forward. I'm a little bit pissed at the folks at the Marijuana Policy Project and Kevin over there for being so shy to coordinate and cooperate with us. Where was I here? Just distracted by comments again. But I think we can work on both of those campaigns side by side. We can work on medical and we can work on decriminalization ordinances at municipal level. And that's a big if I can get some of these other, volunteer positions filled, if I can get a volunteer coordinator, if I can get a communication or an event coordinator and a volunteer coordinator, a lot of that stuff could really start happening. One of the other I put on that list was a communications director, somebody just sort of start taking over when Kristen leaves. She's been working, doing our newsletter for us for a couple of years now. I want to say going on 3 years maybe. And I'm going to need somebody, and that's supposed to be a communications directors, coordinators kind of position on that. But she's taken that over for us over the past few years. But again, another hole I'm going to need to fill, because if we can do, statewide focus of medical, and then as we get smaller, what I'm seeing grassroots advocacy. No, I haven't heard about that meeting on the 19th. If you have a link, let me know.
It's on Jill's South Carolina Compassionate Caroline's website. They're doing it's a Zoom meeting. This will be the third activist meeting group thing I've done with them. And the first two, I took one before I went and spoke with y'all. I took one before I went and spoke with them. This is the third one they're holding, but they have been very, very good informational tools to help activists. And if anybody's free on the 19th, I'm gonna be there.
Okay, I'll have to go and look for that one. Yeah, those don't always pop up for me. And sometimes it's hard to find their event because they don't put them on their page. They usually hide them in the group, and the group's a private group, and makes it challenging for me sometimes to keep up with them. But on the 19th, when's that? Next Tuesday. Cool. I should be able to make that if I can find it and be good. All right, guys, I see it's already after 8 o'clock. We've kind of rambled on, but I think we've got a good couple of things to think about here. Again, get back to me if you do come up with some more details that you'd like to see incorporated as I put together this Action Network thing, so I can give a good description on what people can expect at the farm, and we will kind of go from there. Hopefully get that, start promoting that, mid next week or so. Otherwise, that's it. I'm going to call it for the night and go hit the couch for a little bit. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate